This is my Canyon Spectral CF8 collective edition. It's a mullet, so 29 up the front, 27 in the back. I'm just going to take you guys through pretty much front to back, some of my setup, what parts I'm running, tyre pressures, suspension setup, etc, etc. So we'll start up the front. With the cockpit, I'm running the DMR wing bars in 35mm rise in a 35mm clamp and a 35 by 45mm reach travative stem. Got the Ride Fast capped out cap on there. That's my signature one. I've actually got a new signature full colour cap coming out shortly, which will be pretty cool. Got the DMR death grips. They are super soft, extra thin Brendog Race Edition. Got these grips on my downhill bike as well. Been running them for ages. Haven't found anything else that I like better. Big fan of thin, soft grips. So I found the compound with the black ones, even though it says that the rubber compound on all the grips is the same. I've tried some of the coloured ones in the same model, soft, super thin, and they just don't feel the same. So you'll pretty much always find me running the blacks. I would like to run some of the colours because they got some pretty cool looking colours, but black it is for me. Brakes, SRAM code RSCs, rainbow bolts, just because, you know, why not? Go down to, well, alright, before we move on to the forks, I tend to run a pretty high front end, so I've got, what are we looking at here? I actually don't measure it, but plus the cap, 10, 20, got like 30mm of stack. This stem has, I think, like 5mm rise as well. I'm 6'2", so kind of need a pretty high front end just to feel nice and centered on the bike. Also running the SRAM axis. I just went for GX. To be completely honest, I don't know what the difference is between like GX and XO and XX1. So GX is fine for me, does the trick. The axis is sick as long as you remember to charge the batteries. Move on to suspension. So got the RockShox Lyric in there. It's got the charger damper in it. I've got them at 160mm travel. I didn't go for the Zeb purely for the fact that I don't think I needed such a stiff fork on this bike. I think the Zeb would have felt a bit unbalanced in terms of stiffness with, like, it's only 160mm travel up front, 150mm in the back. So I think the Zeb would have just felt a bit too stiff on the front for what the rest of the bike is. So the Lyric's been sweet so far. I've got that set up with 100 and, oh, hang on. What do we got? I've got 91 PSI in the forks. I've got 1 token. And then rebound and compression, I have, should remember this off the top of my head, you reckon? No, never gonna happen. Low speed compression, I've got 8 clicks, high speed is 2, and rebound is 9. Those are all counting from fully closed or fully slow. I kind of aim to always have my setup in the middle in terms of clicks. My shock's the same. All the clicks are in the middle, so that looks like 8 clicks of low speed and 6 clicks of rebound as well. From what I've learnt from, you know, experience and from some really knowledgeable people like Nigel and Lockie and the guys over at SRAM, is that you should always aim to have your suspension set up kind of in the middle of the clicker range. That way you've got room to move either way if you need to. If you're all the way, you know, all the way off or all the way on with something and you need to adjust it slightly for the conditions or for the track or whatever, you've only got one direction to move. So if you're not in the middle, means you probably need to look at, you know, either different air pressure if you've got air or different coil weight if you've got coil. Whilst we're on the topic of suspension, I've got a RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate coil shock in there. I've preferred the coil shock over air. I've got coil on my downhill bike and I had this same shock on my previous trail bike as well. This model actually comes out with a coil shock. yeah, got a 450-pound spring. As we just said, clickers are set in the middle, so 9 clicks of rebound and 6 clicks of compression, I think. Is that right? I just said it and I can't even remember it. What are we looking at here? Yeah, 6 clicks of rebound and 9 clicks of compression. I think I said on the backwards. What are we moving on to next? Suspension, done. Cockpit, done. Got the ergon seat, just came on it. Feels pretty good to me. I did get a bike fit when I first got this. Shout out to the guys at Roll Cycles down in Hobart. First bike fit that I'd ever had done, and like, geez, it makes a difference. Just that extra little bit of efficiency and a bit more comfortable pedaling up hills, like, makes a massive difference. So would recommend getting a bike fit if you've got access to one. If you're in Hobart, go see the dudes at Roll, or go see Tyler at Cycling Go as well. They all know what they're talking about. So got the RockShox reverb. Didn't opt for access with the reverb just because, again, like, quite tall. Need all the help I can get. So I got the 200mm dropper, but the access, I think, only comes in 170 or 180 currently. What do we got next? Wheels, they're just the stock wheels that came on it. They're DT Swiss EX511s. Got those wrapped up in some of the best. Got a Maxxis Assegai on the front. What are we running? That's just like 3C Max Terra Exo casing, or Exo trail casing. And running the Maxxis Minion DHR2 on the back in the same specs. The DHR2 is pretty much my go-to tyre. I usually run those front and rear, but this bike came with the Assegai on the front, and so I thought I'd give it a go. Been loving it so far. Ridden it on a bunch of hard pack stuff, including the jumps in the recent video project that I just dropped called Notion. Rolls fast. It's maybe not as predictable as the Minion on like hard pack corners, but whenever you get somewhere like super steep and soft and loamy, like, got all the front end traction in the world, it's sick. So the wheels are set up tubeless, usually run somewhere between 27 and 26, 27 in the front and 28 to 29 in the back. Wouldn't usually go any harder than that. Every now and then I'd drop like a PSI lower, but rotor size, I've just got the standard size brake rotors on this rig, which is a 200 on the front and a 180 on the back, I believe. I didn't muck around with like the funny size brake rotors like what I do on my downhill bike. If you haven't read my bike check and my Canyon Sender in Revo Mag, suggest that you do so. Run the same setup that Troy's running now currently, or he was at least last time he did a bike check, and that on my downhill bike I've got a 220mm rotor on the back and a 200mm rotor on the front, opposite to maybe what you're supposed to, but I've always found that the bigger rotor on the back, like since I tried it, kind of evens out your braking distribution, so your rear brake doesn't overheat as quickly like it normally would, and it just has like a bit more bite. When I had the 220 on the front as well, I just like kept tucking the front. It was too powerful. So pedals, just running these guys. Crank Brothers Mallet DH. Might be surprised to know that I'm a full-time clip guy, or at least permanent part-time clip guy. Been running clips forever. Can't see myself changing from clips anytime soon. Pretty much only time I ride flats is if I'm riding jumps, or I don't know, in Whistler or Queenstown, and I'm just gonna go and ride jumps. Clips have always been my preferred choice. Mainly just, I don't know, it's one less thing that I have to worry about. I don't have the best ankle mobility, so dropping my heels and keeping my feet on the pedals over steep rough stuff kind of just hasn't worked for me. Being clipped in is one less thing I have to worry about. So yeah, Crank Brothers Mallet DH, they've been my pedal of choice for, I don't know, since I was on the Yarra Valley Cycles team. Like, what's that, like 6 years ago now. Alex Swan converted me over and haven't looked back since. These ones are actually pretty clapped at the minute, been running them for like 2 years, but yeah, that's what I spend my money on. The other cool thing about this bike is I've had it frame wrapped by the guys down at Peninsula Tint and Paint Protection. So if you're in the Mornington Peninsula area or even just the greater Melbourne region, head down to the dudes there. They did a sick job with it. Like I didn't even know until I actually like started looking real close like a few days later. I thought that they just wrapped like the mainframe, but they've wrapped like all around my fork crowns here. My lowers have been wrapped, like all of the intricate little bits and pieces have all been wrapped. I had stuck on this Dyed Bro kit on the rear end. They're just like leftover bits that I had, and I'd done a pretty bad job. They actually kind of like cut around that, like left it on and not restuck, but like fixed up my shitty job of sticking that on. So it's winter down here, so yeah, Red Hill kind of gritty, sandy stuff, and probably ridden them for like 2 months. Can't even tell that I've got it. So yeah, I'll put the link in the description if you guys want to check them out. I'll also put the link in the description to my signature Ride Fast capped out cap stem cap, and I'll also put the link to this bike on the Canyon website if you want to check it out more and get to know all the geometry details and stuff like that. So thanks for watching. Hope you learnt something, and I'll try and get a bike checkup of my Canyon Sender soon.